Tonight at 10 o'clock, 200 murders. That's a stunning number of people killed in the city of Baltimore this year, and there's no end in sight to the horrendous violence erupting in our neighborhoods.
Some GOP senators break ranks and send the health care bill into a downward spiral. The newest development is lawmakers try to come up with a new prescription for health care.
And the Ravens open training camp with breaking news. Joe Flacco sidelined. We have an idea how long his bad back is going to keep him off the field. Well, that's where we begin tonight. On the same day they open their training camp, the Ravens learned they could be without their star quarterback.
Joe Flacco has an apparent back injury. Sports director Bruce Cunningham joining us now with more. And Bruce, the report started around 8 this evening. Joe Flacco has some sort of back injury. And what does that mean for the rest of the season and for training camp and the beginning of the season?
Yeah, it will almost certainly affect his availability for training camp. We're talking about Joe Flacco's back. Flacco has been experiencing some soreness in his back, and the reporting tonight he has a disc problem from lifting weights. He had an MRI. He will miss some time, but how much time? The reports vary wildly from just a few practices to 1 to 2 weeks, and at least one outlet said it could be 3 to 6 weeks, which would affect his availability for the season opener, September 10th at Cincinnati. Now, the Ravens have not said anything about the Flacco reports tonight, but that will change tomorrow. Both Flacco and Coach John Harbaugh are scheduled to address the media at training camp. We will learn more then.
All right, Bruce, thank you. We have more breaking news tonight, this time out of Columbus, Ohio. At least one person is dead, several others injured after a ride malfunctions on the opening day of the Ohio State Fair. Fire officials say some people were thrown from the ride. Our sister station in Columbus has a crew at the scene. We will take you there live in just a few minutes.
Baltimore's homicide rate hits another milestone as the city deals with its 200th murder this year.
Jeff Abel is live at police headquarters tonight where detectives are probing this latest case. Jeff.
You know, it wasn't until September 2nd of last year when Baltimore saw its 200th homicide, but now that distinction has come in the month of July, as this year now on record to becoming the bloodiest year Baltimore has seen on record. As police circle the skies of West Baltimore tonight,
it's a war zone. It is.
Daphne Alston was standing her ground.
We don't get mad enough to say this has got to stop. Until we do come together, it's going to continue to happen.
Alston, whose son was gunned down 9 years ago, was shaking her head tonight at the city's newest milestone. On the ground at Green Mountain Biddle this afternoon was the body of a 23-year-old man who became Baltimore's 200th homicide victim of the year. Witnesses reported hearing several gunshots. The killer nowhere to be found.
We had 200 murders. I guarantee you 100 is in response to the murder. All of them are weak people making weak decisions, but they get around their friends who empower them, and then they act out.
Alston, who founded Mothers of Murdered Sons and Daughters, believes the war will keep escalating until communities grow louder and get involved.
If we keep going the rate we're going, there's not going to be a young man left around.
Well, you may remember back in 2011, the city's homicide rate never topped 200 for the entire year. We are live downtown. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
All right, Jeff, thank you. The man involved in a fight near Cross Street Market has died. Police say 34-year-old Edrelyn Montalban died yesterday after being in critical condition. The fight happened early Saturday morning. The cause of his death hasn't been determined.
The city's murder rate this year has been a driving force behind local legislation that would stiffen the penalty for second-time offenders caught carrying an illegal gun in the city. It's an issue for not just the mayor and police commissioner, but the entire city. As crime and justice reporter Joy LaPola explains.
After what happened here yesterday,
people just go around shooting people. It's heartbreaking.
Some say even places once considered sacred
Evil is overcoming good right now.
are unsafe.
Because I never would have thought something like that happened here yesterday would have happened. you know, but it did.
Just like that.
A killing just feet from the front doors of a church is Baltimore's 199th murder.
190. Oh, Lord.
I just don't understand why, people just want to kill for no apparent reason.
199 chances lost to make America great.
Yeah, that's a high number. Oh, yeah, definitely.
And many say it's just a matter of time.
It's inevitable to happen very soon.
200.
It might be today, if it ain't already happened. And that's sad.
200 homicides, a milestone mini prey the city doesn't reach.
I think it's going to get worse. I mean, it's been bad, but look like now it's terrible.
No hope. Nobody has hope anymore. And where's your faith? Nobody has faith. Nobody believes in anything.
Joy LaPola.
It's just like Wild Wild West out here now.
Fox 45 News.
We have breaking news out of Baltimore County tonight. Police are investigating the shooting of two men in Woodlawn, one found along Kent Avenue, the other along Lizardale Circle. Police were called to that area about 3:15 this afternoon. You can see the scene from Kent Avenue on the left and Lizardale Circle on the right. Now, those two locations are about 3 miles apart. Right now, there's no word on the condition of the victims. Investigators are still looking into suspects and motives.
Baltimore City Police are asking for your help finding this man. Investigators say he is the suspect from a shooting on Monday along Druid Hill Avenue near Dauphin Street. The victim was treated at a nearby hospital. Anyone with information on this person is asked to call police.
Angel Fury from Baltimore faces the possibility of life in prison after being convicted of first-degree murder and robbery today. Last year, on January 5th, Edward Yasitis was found beaten inside of a hotel room along Pulaski Highway. Her co-defendant, Christopher Wilkins, pled guilty to first-degree murder last year and was sentenced to 30 years in prison. We have an update right now to breaking news that we've been following all day. The United States Senate takes votes on health care reform. Earlier today, the vote to repeal Obamacare without a replacement failed. Republican senators say the Senate may be able to pass something called skinny repeal.
Repealing the individual mandate is something we all agree on, and repealing the employee or the job-killing employer mandate is something we all agree on. I think repealing a lot of the Obamacare taxes, which are driving up the cost of health care in this country, are things that we agree on.
Democrats will be here fighting for as long as it takes to beat back these shameful health care bills. We hear the American people. We hear you. We are on your side. And we will never give up.
An amendment from the Democrats tried to force this health care reform pushback to committee. Well, that one failed too, 48-52.
We are taking you back now to breaking news in Ohio. A deadly ride accident at the Ohio State Fair. There is a news conference going on right now. We're going to listen in.
Really showed us that this was a great force and a great mechanism, really consistent with a very high-speed motor vehicle crash, with an ejection, something more along those lines. And so with the information about the speeds that were associated and the force of the impact, we were able to do the appropriate imaging like CAT scans and look for all the appropriate injuries.
So when you say they're in critical condition, we know that there's different levels. What does critical mean to the hospital and to the caretakers?
Well, I would say it's a fairly vague term, but unfortunately, because we don't have family notification completed yet, I really can't get into the details.
Well, not the details, but what does, I mean, I know there's different levels, but what does critical mean?
Yeah. Well,
not
in this case,
in this specific case. But
well, I think I could say that in this case, it does mean that they're all in an intensive care unit, being closely monitored and receiving active interventions with physicians at the bedside.
Okay, that'll be it for tonight.
Okay.
Right now.
So you said 3 total at this point, primarily teens at this point that we know of.
We have one older individual.
All right, that is a news conference going on right now in Ohio after that terrible amusement park accident at the State Fair in Ohio where one person is dead, several others injured, including some that are in critical condition tonight after that ride accident at the Ohio State Fair. We will continue to follow developments out of the state of Ohio tonight in this terrible tragedy there. In other news, Congressman Steve Scalise is out of the hospital. Scalise was released from MedStar Washington Hospital Center today. He was critically injured June 14th, of course, when that gunman opened fire on a Virginia baseball field. Scalise will now begin an intensive period of rehabilitation.
Police believe alcohol was a factor in a 3-vehicle crash on Route 50 that left 2 people dead this morning. That fatal wreck happened in Annapolis around 2 o'clock in the morning. State police say the driver, Christine Parks, was going the wrong way on Route 50 when she collided with 2 cars. Parks and another driver died at the scene. The third driver, Alexander Kwan, and his passenger, Janet Kim, have been treated and released from the hospital.
I was kind of just driving down the highway, and next thing I knew, a loud noise and something hit me, or I hit someone on the freeway, and that was it.
It took police more than an hour to retrieve the bodies from the cars. Authorities say when they cut into Parks' car, they found alcohol containers. The crash closed the westbound lanes of Route 50 for nearly 6 hours. We continue to follow that breaking news out of Ohio, where 1 person has died and many others hurt after a ride malfunctions at the Ohio State Fair. Coming up at 10:30, we'll take you to the scene for new developments, plus a better explanation of how the accident happened in the first place.
Also tonight, lights, camera, action. Red light runners are out of time. See when those tickets are going to be mailed out.
And the Ravens score a touchdown with one city school. What they've done that's getting rave reviews. That's in tonight's Project Baltimore report, right after this quick timeout.
And we are looking at this slim threat for severe weather tomorrow, but I think our chances for rain and also some very strong thunderstorms goes way up on Friday. So coming up in 10 minutes, I'll break down your rain chances for the rest of the week. You're watching Fox 45 News at 10.
A high school in West Baltimore is getting a $1.5 million facelift thanks to a donation from the Baltimore Ravens.
Project Baltimore lead investigative reporter Chris Papps was the only TV reporter invited to Renaissance Academy to tour the school with the principal. He joins us now. And Chris, this donation means much more than just new doors and windows, right?
Yeah, you see, Kai and Jennifer, over the past few years, Renaissance Academy has been through a lot, including the stabbing death of a student in 2015. And a few months ago, North Avenue recommended closing the school. But the principal tells Fox 45 this donation changes everything. It may not look like much, at least not yet, but past all this dust is a new start.
It's another stepping stone on the path to change the outcome for children, which is powerful.
Come September, the halls of Renaissance Academy will look very different.
This is the original space.
And Principal Nakia Rowe will have one thing on her mind: the faces of her students when they walk through those doors and see their new school.
It will probably warm my heart. It'll probably make me cry.
The Baltimore Ravens donated $1.5 million to give these students a school that they can be proud of. A school that just 8 months ago was almost forced to shut down. A school in the heart of West Baltimore, where students see an unforgiving side of this city.
There have been times where they have felt despair and that they have felt hopelessness. And so I feel like this donation sends a different message to young people around them being worthy of the investment.
Without this money, Principal Rowe and her students faced an uncertain future. But with it, the building will have a large common area and a new main entrance, art room, and modern science lab. Space for social workers to mentor students will also be expanded.
To see the Ravens investing in this, it means so much, because I would hate to see my alma mater just disintegrate to nothing as if it was never here.
Samara Jones and Paris Holmes graduated from Renaissance. They're now seniors at Coppin State University. But this building is still a place they call home. They know what this school has been through, and they know what this donation will mean to the students who follow in their footsteps.
It's an honor that someone actually does care, and that students are not being necessarily always labeled as the troublesome kids or children that they're depicted so often, and that somebody is still out there and, you know, has their best interests at heart. They definitely deserve the investment. All children deserve an investment. We can't afford to give up on any children in Baltimore City.
The renovation is scheduled to be completed by the time that teachers report to the classroom in late August, so they have a lot of work that they have to get done.
Chris, why do you think the Ravens chose this school to contribute to.
Well, the owner had said that he was moved by the media reports on the school and how they were trying to keep it open when North Avenue was trying to shut it down. So this investment will go a long way in making sure that that school does stay open. And remember, we want to hear from you. What are you seeing inside of your kids' schools? What's working? What's not? Call our hotline, send us an email. Go to foxbaltimore.com to follow our progress. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Some firefighters in Montgomery County were battling the heat inside their own firehouse last week. Remember how hot it was last week? Temperatures soaring well into the 90s. Well, you can see everything they were trying to do to stay cool. Temporary AC units, makeshift doors to keep the air in, the cooler air. It seems that the HVAC system went down a few weeks before the heat wave at Station 3 in Rockville, making it almost as hot inside as it was outside.
You work a pretty dangerous job as it is, a pretty taxing job, and the last thing that you would want to deal with is a broken AC unit. So any delay or perceived delay in getting AC units repaired could make, personnel just a little edgy.
Yeah, understandably. Well, Montgomery County Fire says that repair work should be complete within a few weeks as crews wait on the shipment of a few miscellaneous parts.
Yeah, we certainly wish them well. They have a hard job as it is.
Absolutely.
It's tough.
At least they're getting a little bit of a break with cooler weather right now.
That's right. That kind of helps. Let's check in with meteorologist Amy Aronson to find out what changes might be on the way, though. Hi, Amy.
Hi, guys. Yeah, we've had some welcome changes the past couple of days. We're currently in the mid-70s right now at BWI, 77 at the Inner Harbor, 76 in Annapolis, and we've run down to 74 in Columbia. So an opportunity to actually open up the windows tonight as those numbers drop back into the 60s and then bounce right back into the 70s tomorrow morning. So tomorrow you're going to notice the first change. You're going to notice that heat, that humidity making a gradual return. Actual temperatures end up in the mid and upper 80s. It's going to feel a bit more humid, so it's actually going to feel like low 90s. We'll also see those clouds increase, and then eventually we see the slim threat for an isolated shower and isolated thunderstorm. That's not in the morning, that's not midday, that actually comes later tomorrow afternoon. Now I think the real threat for rain and some heavy rain is actually going to hold off until the end of the week, so that's on Friday. So although we could see that spot thunderstorm tomorrow, a much better chance for that rain and those strong thunderstorms by week's end. So coming up in just about 15 minutes, I'll walk you through the timeline for those showers and storms tomorrow, but more importantly, Friday into Saturday. Jennifer, Kai.
Thank you, Amy. You can access the latest information when severe weather hits on your mobile phone. Download the Fox 45 weather app. Search for WBFF in your app store.
And remember, you can always send us your photos and videos. Just open up your Fox 45 News app and click See It, Send It. We might show them live during our newscast.
Fox 45 brings you more news than anyone else in town. Later in the broadcast, more on that breaking news that we brought you at the top of the hour. The star quarterback of the Ravens, Joe Flacco, sidelined, and it's only day one of training camp. See how long our star quarterback is going to be out of commission.
A shark attacked. Why these boaters are facing the long arm of the law after a dangerous joyride.
The decision is based on a military decision. It's not meant to be anything more than that.
President Trump makes a major decision about who's fit to serve in the armed forces. Tonight, one group and its allies are calling foul. Now back to that breaking news from the beginning of the hour, a fatal accident at the Ohio State Fair.
A news conference going on right now. We're going to listen in.
So we will be, over the course of the next days and weeks, conducting a thorough investigation of this incident. And at this point, I would like to introduce the Director of the Department of Agriculture, Director David Daniels.
Thank you, Colonel. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And first of all, I want to say that our hearts and condolences go out to those that have been injured by this tragic accident. Minutes after I learned of the incident that has happened this evening in the amusement ride division, I spoke to the governor, and he ordered the ride shut down here on the Ohio State Fairgrounds until we have an opportunity with our amusement ride inspection personnel to do a complete review of all the rides that are there. Ride inspection is one of the most important things that we do. The Department of Agriculture is responsible for that operation. We do not rush inspections. Our inspections take place, and as amusement rides come in, they are checked several times why they're being put up, and each and every day. We will begin an investigation on this to determine what the failure was, if any, and how this accident occurred. We started out today with 11 rides that did not open because we were not able to get the inspection work done on them. Some of those were cleared during the day. We have 5 rides that will not, or 4 rides that will not be operating because they do not meet the mechanical tests. So we will work through the night and into tomorrow to make sure that those re-inspections are done and the rides are inspected to the manufacturer's specifications. So we will be continuing and concluding those as soon as can and have those hopefully open back up for the public when we are sure that those inspections have been done. So I would now introduce the Governor of the State of Ohio, John Kasich.
It's a very tough day, very tough night for the people of our state because of the loss of our citizens. It's kind of hard to imagine that you have family that goes to a state fair and those calls come that there was a terrible accident, a terrible tragedy, and somebody you love was involved. It's a very, very tough situation when you go somewhere to celebrate and have a great time, and you're with friends and sometimes with family, and you know the fair is about the best things in life, and then tonight with this accident, it becomes a terrible, terrible tragedy. Of course, what I want to know immediately is, first of all, what are we doing with rides? And so we shut all the rides down. And then beyond that, we want to know about what's the process for inspection. And we have a man here who heads our operation. He's been an inspector for 17 plus years, nearly a couple decades. He not only inspects the rides here at the Ohio State Fair, but he has been involved in inspecting rides all across the state. I think he mentioned there are 4,000 units that he's inspected. This particular ride was inspected multiple times. And I'll let him talk a little bit about this, including by a third-party inspector who he witnessed inspecting this ride. We will get to the bottom of this. We will investigate it. There will be complete transparency. We will have some records for you available this evening that will be able to show how this particular ride was inspected, and release that to all of you. Of course, we want to get to the bottom of this, not only because we're concerned about the situation here in the Buckeye State, but there may be things that can be learned that can help people in other states, or even at these fairs that are not really giant, like the Ohio State Fair, or like the amusement parks that we have, the great parks that we have in the state of Ohio. But make no mistake about it, it is a very, very sad night for all of us. And I will be here tomorrow again I'll be here tomorrow on the fairgrounds and walk through the fairgrounds. I hope at some opportunity at some point I'll have an opportunity to speak to those who were involved or their loved ones. I think with that, let's take a few questions here.
Will the fair be open tomorrow?
Yeah, the fair is going to be open. The rides will not be reopened until they're all inspected again. Maybe this is a good opportunity, Mike, for you to talk about the procedures that you use, both before the fair opens, what happens as the fair opens, and what you do every day. You want to talk about that and introduce yourself, Mike?
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Vartarella. I'm the Chief Inspector for Amusement Ride Safety for the Department of Agriculture, and I'm the guy that we have a team out here of 4 inspectors and myself, and office staff that actually comes out to the fairgrounds during this last week. We look at these rides at different stages. These rides come in on trucks. We're out here since last Wednesday. We take a look at them when they're static. They're not quite up yet. We look at them as they go up. We look at them when they're up, and we actually operate the rides and make sure that they're safe to operate. So we're looking at structure, we're looking at operations, we're looking at electrical, we're going through everything to manufacturer specifications, so to assure that they're put up the way the manufacturer wants them to be put up. We're looking at about 4,300 pieces of equipment in this state. That includes water parks, go-kart tracks, permanent parks, Cedar Points, Kings Island. So we take this job very serious. And when we have a tragedy like this, it hits everybody, and it hits us really hard. So my grandchildren ride this equipment. So our guys do not rush through this stuff. We look at it, we take care of it, and we pretend it's our own. So I'll take any questions.
Mike, talk about the process of this ride in particular and how it was handled.
This particular ride is what we call a spectacular piece. This piece of equipment is put up from multiple trucks. So it comes together, it's bolted together. We're going to take a look at it as they put it to the ground. We're going to make sure it's level. Then we're going to make sure that we take a look at the structure as it goes up. We're going to take a look at the electrical components, the connections going to the boxes. We're going to look at the hydraulics. We look at any specification that the manufacturer tells us to do. In other words, if there's non-destructive testing or some type of testing that needs to be done, we make sure that all that documentation is in place and it's been completed. Every day, they're required to do pre-opening inspections. So our team looked at it. We had a third-party team look at it. It's been looked at about 3 or 4 times over the course of 2 days.
Were there any red flags with that ride? Any at all?
No.
Is there a scale in which it's rated? Is there an ABCD scale or passing or not passing? How does that?
No, our documentation eventually will be available, but there is a certain document that we put in place. It's looking at structural. It's looking at there's a bunch of check boxes that it has to go. It's not rated on an ABC.
It's pass, no pass.
It's pass, no. It's pass or fail.
Can you give us specific?
So you had a case here, for example, where there were 11 rides that were not open at 10 o'clock when the fair opened today because they weren't satisfied with the inspection. And then since that time, there are now 4 rides that are not opened at all. One of them may not be open, the other 3 we'll see. But, you don't want to hurry this process. And so as I talked to him and understood the repeated efforts to try to determine this, then they have the paperwork, because that was my question. Okay, you say you did it. I want to know. I want to see it. Did you do it? And so when they produce it, they're doing what they can. As he says, he's concerned not only about his kids, but his grandkids riding on these rides. We're all concerned about the loss of life and these kind of injuries. It's terrible, but they can only do the best that they can do. But we'll investigate. We're not going to take anybody's word for anything. The Highway Patrol will investigate. The Department of Agriculture will investigate. It will be fully transparent for everyone to understand.
You mentioned that this ride went through several processes of investigating it prior to people getting on. You said it was structurally sound. So then, how can you guarantee with all of the inspections that something like this won't happen again if it passed all of the necessary testing?
There's no guarantee. Obviously, mechanical or structural damage could be done where you can't see it. Metal fatigue sometimes. There's different things that are not visual to the human eye.
Can you give us specific detail on what happened with this ride?
Not at this point.
Okay.
Can you talk about the specifics of that ride? How many people can be on it at a certain time? How many cars there are when it's fully functioning?
I'd be speculating now, but there's 4 seats per gondola, if you will. So you have 3 separate sweeps with 4 gondolas, with 3 gondolas on it, I believe.
But with this tour proof that they saw a worker prior to the ride being ran prior to this accident, going up to the equipment, looking over it, making some kind of adjustment, and then started the ride, and that's when this happened.
I can't confirm that.
Can you spell your last name?
It's V as in Victor, A-R-T-O-R-E-L-L-A.
I'm sorry, one more time.
V as in Victor, A-R-T-O-R-E-L-L-A.
When was it effective that the rides were closed? Because it seems like they went on for a while after the accident, like things went on like.
Yeah, basically what happened is I got a call from our Chief of Staff, Beth Hansen. I then called Dave, and by that point there were people that were gathered, and I told Dave we don't want to keep the rides going. So I don't know exactly what time it was, but as soon as we learned, I learned and got a handle on the thing, I said we got to shut them all down.
Governor, can you say whether there was just one Bronco that went off?
No, I don't know. I mean, this will be something, I know there's a video out, but this will be something that will be investigated. I mean, the Highway Patrol, this is what they do. They investigate. Dave Daniel will investigate through his operation. We'll be on top of it in the governor's office. And we don't want to speculate on any of this.
And there is a very somber news conference out of Columbus, Ohio tonight with Ohio Governor John Kasich talking about this terrible tragedy at the Ohio State Fair where one person is dead, 7 injured, 3 critical after a ride malfunctions. And apparently, according to some video that we've seen online, people plummeted from that ride called the Fireball, which is a spinning ride that sort of swings back and forth. But something went very wrong at the Ohio State Fair tonight. The rides are shut down tonight, and they are dealing with this terrible tragedy. 1 dead, several others injured.
Jennifer showed me the video, and I'll make this quick. We don't have the authority to show it to you at this time, but I'm sure it's going to come out. It's absolutely horrible. It's frightening. And this is the time of year when state fairs take place. We have the Maryland State Fair. It's the largest state fair or largest event the state puts on. But Governor Kasich saying that they are shutting down all rides and will do a thorough review. Everyone wants to know how could something like this happen, but they do talk about the fact that these rides are inspected meticulously. It's a pass or fail. There's no grading system, and that they're supposed to be put up according to the manufacturer's instructions. Something went wrong. We need to find out what that was.
We'll be continuing to follow this story out of Columbus, Ohio tonight. Well, cleanup continues on Kent Island after Monday's devastating tornado. Fortunately, no one was seriously hurt, but there was widespread damage.
Tonight, the 911 tapes from that frightening early morning have been released. You're about to hear how the calls quickly escalated from bad to much worse. In the wee hours of Monday morning, when most people were asleep, calls start pouring in to the Queen Anne's County 911 Center.
Queen Anne's County 911, status of your emergency.
I think a tornado just hit my house.
Okay, what is your address?
607 Beatty Lane.
Thunderstorms spawned a tornado that tore a sizable path across the close-knit Kent Island community. The force of the storm cut power, leaving residents in pitch-black conditions. Many could see no further than their front doors, but they could smell, and it was frightening.
The tornado must have hit our house, and the propane, we're smelling it in the house, but my house is like literally, the porch is blown off and shifted and everything else, and we don't know what to do with the, we can't get out there to turn the propane off.
More calls just like that one continue to come in. In those cases, dispatchers ordered everyone to leave the house. As the calls piled up, it quickly became evident operators had their hands full.
Okay, just bear with me 1 second. We're getting a load of calls here.
More calls, more damage reported.
Do you want some kind of, do you want like the fire department to come out there?
Just to make sure that the roof's not going to come in on me. That's my concern.
Okay, I just need somebody here quick. We're just kind of trapped, and I don't want anything else to happen.
Okay, we'll get them out there.
The spirit of helping came through long before daylight revealed the damage. Dawn Clark called 911 because she was worried about her next-door neighbor.
Queen Anne's County 911, what's the address, the emergency?
Yes, hello. This is more of an informational call. A tree fell in our house. Everyone's okay, just in case someone else calls.
The National Weather Service did confirm that an EF2 tornado struck Kent Island. Winds are 111 to 135 miles an hour. Residents are counting their blessings that no one was killed or seriously hurt.
All right, there is expected to be that the recovery will take several months, including the cleanup will take some time. Time now to get a check of our weather forecast.
Here's meteorologist Amy Aronson. Amy.
Yeah, after severe weather, the heat, the humidity earlier this week, things have calmed down quite a bit, and today was very quiet. 77 degrees currently, very comfortable at this hour. That humidity still missing in action. We are just looking at a few clouds tonight, but otherwise radar not picking up on any showers, any thunderstorms. And that's because high pressure is technically in control while we wait on our next storm system. Currently plowing its way across the Midwest, the Great Lakes. We're next in line. This is going to be our next rainmaker for Friday. That's actually going to send us some significant rain and the threat for flooding as we close out your work week. But for the remainder of tonight, right through Thursday morning, we are just in and out of the clouds. So we'll actually begin your Thursday with a few sprinkles, far and few between. Most locations enjoy a dry start to the day and remain dry at least through midday. Now, as we head through the later half of the afternoon, we do start to see some showers, some isolated thunderstorms try to fire up. They will be scattered in fashion. That means not everybody sees them, but any of these storms will be capable of some heavy rain, even some gusty winds. The greater threat comes on Friday. That's when things really go downhill. Friday starts off A-OK. The first half of the day is actually dry, but very muggy. Then we throw all that moisture into the mix along with that approaching storm system. And here you go. We've got some heavy pockets of rain Friday evening through Friday night, and that takes us right through Saturday morning. So for tomorrow, we've got clouds and sun to begin. Yes, we could see an isolated shower, a spot thunderstorm. Warm and a little more muggy tomorrow with highs in the upper 80s. Rain chances go way up, especially late Friday through early Saturday. Temperatures come down, so we're back in the low 80s, upper 70s. It looks like we should dry things out starting Saturday afternoon, and the rest of the weekend looks great. We've got some sunshine on Sunday. Temperatures right where we want them to be in the low 80s. And then that sunny, dry stretch of weather will carry us through early next week. We've got temperatures in the upper 80s both Monday and Tuesday. By Wednesday, we're heating up. We're near 90 degrees. Stay right there. We've got more news coming up after this quick break.
A new medical study explores the link between football injuries and brain disease.
The CTE, a degenerative brain disease, was found in nearly 90% of 202 former football players whose brains were studied. Shelley Orman is live downtown with the attention this is getting from the NFL down to the youngest of players. Shelley?
Hi, Kai. Yes, from coaches to professional players down to high schoolers, the study is highlighting the importance of ongoing education and taking proper safety precautions.
1, 2, 1, 2. Come on, Moyer.
In Rockville.
Good job. Knees up, eyes up, knees up, eyes up.
Dozens of youth football players are spending this summer practicing.
Let's go, guys. Bring it up.
The We Hit Camp is one of the only tackle football camps in the state.
We're going to get up on the line here, and we want to get up in our football position.
Well, we're trying to do everything we can do to make youth football as safe as possible.
We don't want to lead with our face mask or our helmet, okay?
Guy Stefanelli and his brother Andy are teaching kids to take the head out of the tackle.
Power step through, and I'm going to use uppercuts to make contact here. Notice my head's on the side, my chest is up against the back. There are changes being made to the game now that, 5, 6 years ago even weren't occurring.
My grandson plays, my son coaches, my son played.
For parents, safety is always top priority.
It's very different. It's very careful. They watch to make sure that the kids are okay. If they've been hit, they usually have them sit out. They're very careful about that. It's a serious issue, so understandably so.
Good, okay, jump out, next guy's up.
For the Stefanellis, the new CTE report provides sobering numbers, but the coaches think that recent changes to the game need to be taken into account.
With the new techniques that we're using today, it's going to be 30 or 40 years probably before we know the impact of how much safer that's made the game.
Warrior, no. We don't want to hit with our helmet. Shoulder pad. Do it again. The good part of it is it's bringing awareness, and it's causing effective change to rules. The NFL changes rules, and it trickles down immediately to the collegiate and high school level.
Now, the NFL issued a statement saying reports like that CTE study are important for advancing the science related to head trauma, and says the league is going to continue to work with experts to improve the health of both current and former athletes. Reporting live downtown tonight, Shelley Orman, Fox 45 News.
Look, it's already almost there.
Making headlines in Florida, fishermen in utter shock after seeing a boat dragging a shark at full throttle. You can see the waves battering the hooked animal. Now, Florida State Fish and Wildlife officials have just identified the 3 men behind the video, but they're holding off on releasing their identities while they continue to investigate this disturbing video. Meanwhile, fishermen in Tampa are very upset about seeing this situation. It is illegal in Florida to kill any animal that will not be consumed as food.
Still to come at 10 o'clock, more on tonight's breaking news out of Ravens camp. Day 1 and done. Joe Flacco sidelined with a back injury. Bruce will be back with more later in sports.
Time now for a detailed look at our weekend forecast.
Amy?
Yeah, rain is going to make a real comeback, especially Friday. Friday, be prepared for heavy rain, flooding at times, especially Friday night. We're in the low 80s. Rain wraps up early Saturday. After that, the weekend looks great. We'll dry things out, cool things down. A taste of fall. We're in the upper 70s on Saturday, low 80s by Sunday. Kai?
Brandon Williams got a lot of money this offseason. Now he says he needs to prove it was worth it. We'll take you to training camp next in Sports Unlimited.
As you have seen earlier, the Ravens could be without Joe Flacco for a while. One report says 3 to 6 weeks. This because of a disc problem in his back. He injured it lifting weights. Now, this cast a bit of a pall over the opening of training camp today. As hard as it is to imagine, Flacco's beginning his 10th season with the Ravens, as is his head coach, John Harbaugh. Also arriving today, nose guard Brandon Williams, who got a fat new contract in the offseason. He says he'll start proving his worth in tomorrow's first practice. He also says he has a bad taste from the way last season ended with back-to-back losses to divisional rivals.
And I take it to heart, with the defense of stopping the run, getting to the quarterback, pushing the pocket and all that stuff. So I got to be better. And, with that being said, we just got to execute. We got to, bring it all together and not get too down on ourselves. We just got to keep fighting. That's what it's going to take. A lot of hard work, a lot of finishing, just out here grinding in training camp.
Meanwhile, in St. Pete, the Orioles wound up their series against the Rays with a businessman special, a noon start. And early on, Ubaldo Jimenez was throwing BBs. We got a good long look at good Ubaldo today. He worked 6 innings, gave up just 3 hits, 2 walks, struck out a season-high 9, and he got some early support. The blazing hot Jonathan Scope ripped this home run to left. That's his 22nd, and the O's have the early 1-0 lead. Back to Ubaldo. This is about the only mistake he made all day. Left one up for Evan Longoria, and he did what he does. A 2-run homer that gave the Rays the lead for good. Tampa Bay beats the O's 5-1. We will update you. New information on the Joe Flacco situation at 11:30 as Sports Unlimited continues.
A majestic sight on Chincoteague Island in Virginia. Up next, the annual race drawing thousands from around the world.
Repeal and replace. It has been the slogan of Republicans ever since Obamacare was passed in 2010. However, as we saw, the Senate GOP was unable to pass a full repeal and replacement of Obamacare. Moreover, Senate Republicans have not yet been able to gather enough votes for a repeal-only plan. What options are on the table now? Let's break it down. There is a middle road being discussed that you may not have heard of, the skinny repeal. True to its name, the skinny repeal has a very narrow scope. It would eliminate 3 aspects of Obamacare: the individual mandate requiring Americans to buy health insurance, the rules forcing large companies to offer its workers coverage, and the medical device tax. These 3 items seem to be the only areas of consensus among Senate Republicans. The skinny repeal would not touch any of the more controversial issues like Medicaid funding or subsidies for private insurance. The rest of Obamacare would stay in place. So why bother try and push through such limited changes to Obamacare? Because it would allow a way for the Senate and the House to come to conference. There, they could hash out a broader replacement plan. Having said that, whatever version is worked out in conference then is to go back and be passed by both houses of Congress. The bottom line is this: after 7 years, Republicans need to pass something, anything, that allows the healthcare reform process to continue. Healthcare is a mess. It's a disaster. It requires more reform than what a skinny repeal would do. But I believe that if the Senate and the House are able to get to conference, they will come out with what the American people have been asking for: a true repeal and replacement of Obamacare. That is why even a skinny repeal is better than no repeal at all.
It's an annual tradition that draws spectators from around the world.
Today marked the 92nd annual Chincoteague Pony Swim. The swim takes less than 5 minutes. Salt cowboys signal the horses to go, and veterinarians on boats ensure they travel safely to the other side.
Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Jennifer Gilbert. We begin with breaking news that will cast a cloud on the hopes of Ravens fans everywhere, as it looks like quarterback Joe Flacco will be sitting out part of the season.
Sports director Bruce Cunningham